Welcome back everyone, we're now looking at Orzhov and the remaining black cards. So, starting off we've got Basilica Guards. First time we get to see Extort, nice little ability. Cheap creature for this to be on, Defender, 1/4, not really much more you can ask for it. It's good common, so worth grabbing a few in the draft. Syndic of Tithes, again, good on the Extort. It's a 2/2 bear essentially. It's useful for grabbing early game as a 2/2, late game lots of Extort. Cryptghast, again an amazing Extort card. 4 mana, 2/2, but it doubles your mana production. Speeds up the curve so much, really nice, and helps the pay for those late game Extorts, so you can keep Extorting lots and lots. Really something you want to be grabbing if you can see it in the draft. Certainly something that you want to be picking up. Gateway Shade. It's a shade, the best cost because it's only got a single black. It's got an untapped gate ability, which is useful. As we discussed before, gates are going to be kind of rare, so possibly not the best. It's got the mana pump, which is useful, but you're going to want to be using that for Extort, so it's a little awkward this one. Maybe pick 1 or 2 up, not the best. Thrall Parasite gets going off the bat straight away. It's a 1/1 for 1 with Extort. Gets your Extort going, keeps you going, starts it off straight away. Really useful. Paying 2 life to remove a counter, good dependent on who you're playing against. When you're dealing with your Simic, with your big creatures, with lots of counters on the Simic, useful. Boros Enchantment, removing counters from that can sometimes be helpful. In general though, you're probably just going to be using it for an early Extort. Arms Beast, 4 mana for a 6/6. You think wow, then you see the ability. Blocking or block, to buy it, have lifelink. So they're always going to try to block it. It's a bit of a weird one. Sometimes it would be worth grabbing, sometimes not. It's probably not your best pick in a draft, dependent on what options there are. There may be better options. Deathpact Angel, the giant inevitable angel of death. It's quite expensive what it does. It's quite expensive, but it's good. Flying 5/5, keeps getting those beats in. It is mythic for a reason though, because it keeps coming back over and over and over again. As well worth getting. It's a really nice card. Admittedly, obviously, somebody can nuke the cleric, the moment this dies, but when the cleric comes in, it's just really worth it. This card is very, very nice, so get it if you can, but at the same point, be careful how you play it and look after that cleric. High Priest of Penance. So it's a very good card, and it's clearly going to get abused in other sets and other plays like Commander. It's brilliant. 2 mana for 1/1, okay, but it's that sitting there ready to block. The moment it blocks, it destroys anything you want. So it's very useful to just sit there as a threat on the board against your opponent. If you see them, probably pick it up. Very nice Orvos card, but depends on what you can get. The Ghost Council. They were weak last time we saw these guys, now not so much. Kind of expensive on the mana curve on this, because you've got the 2 white, 2 black, but it is a 5/5 for 5 either way. Comes in, deals 2 damage, you gain 2 life. Brilliant. But at the same point, you can keep bouncing it every single turn to get that 2 damage, 2 life every single turn, and it's got haste so you can keep nuking. So it's a really nice card to just keep bouncing in and out and attacking with haste. Very nice. Treasury Thrall. This is the general that you get on the pre-release. Not really too keen on it. Yes, you've got the X-Stored. It's a 4/4 for 6 though, a little high. Yes, you've got the Graveyard Delving, and it's a relatively nice Graveyard Delving that you can use every single turn. But it's a bit frustrating because it's not always going to be that useful. It's nice if you can get it, and the X-Store is obviously always nice. So certainly there are far worse options, and it is going to see a lot of play. The Confessor is not a great card. It's going to do very little in your deck. You might have to pay, might have the life to pay to see your opponent's entire hand, but you've got no guarantees of what's going to happen. It's expensive to use. It's 5 mana for a 1/3. Yes, you've got that whole cycle ability. And yes, X-Store is going to get you a lot of extra life. That's the whole point of it. But it's not necessarily the best option. So maybe pick 1 or 2 up. But probably not the best. Really nice Shockland image here. Again, they've done really quite a good job on the lands. Quite like that one. And Guildgate, again, really nice art on the Guildgate. We can't argue with the Guildgate at all. We have Lord of the Void, big scary man. When he hits, he's going to do a ton. It's a 7/7 for 7 mana that flies. Great. All good on its own. Then, when he gets in there and then has his ability when he does damage, which he is going to do because he's a flyer, he's going to wreak absolute havoc. He's very nice. Very good card to pick if you can. Certainly worth having, and certainly worth keeping hold of. Next we've got Blind Obedience, which is control, come back. Useful because it's a cheap, even if you ignore everything else, it's a cheap Extort card. 2 mana, get it down, extort your opponent to death. On the other hand though, the fact that everything comes into play, creatures and artifacts comes into play tapped, really helps you gain upper hand on the control of the board, keeps everything going. Ogre Slumlord. It's a cool card with a lot of potential. Actually works out really nicely if you mess around with RTR, which I think is kind of what they had the idea with. Doesn't really fit too massively into everything else, but it's a really nice card on its own, and you just keep bringing rats in with Death Touch. What more can you ask for? Quite useful, nice little card. The Black Avatar. Mass Zombify on a body. It's really sweet. In a multiplayer game, it's going to be amazing. Draft, not quite as much, but it is amazing to be able to just pick and choose. Would go very nicely in a Dimir deck. When you've been milling them, you just drop that down and then pick whatever creature you want out of their graveyard. Very good. It's going to be a well-wanted card, probably one to look out for. Undercity Informer, again, probably good for Dimir because it's a good mill card. Dimir are all about their mills. It's a 3 mana for a 2/3, so it's quite nice on its own anyway, but very good on the milling there. The Key Rune, obviously, you're going to want it anyway because it's a Key Rune, but at the same point, 1/4 with lifelink gives you a great little chump blocker whenever you need it. Because of the lifelink, you know you're going to get at least 1 life out of it. So, quite nice, but not amazing. Merciless Eviction. It's like a better Final Judgment. So much flexibility in it. 6 mana is not too much to do, but so much flexibility to just do whatever you want. If you've got a lot of creatures, clear their board, go in for an Alpha Strike. They've got any artifacts, you can deal with that. Enchantment, deal with it. Planeswalker, gone. Very, very flexible, very nice card. And not only that, if you go to Grand Prix London next month, the artist is actually going to be there signing copies. So, certainly worth thinking about. Orzhov Charm. Good utility card. I mean, let's be honest again, we're drafting. If you're playing Orzhov, you're going to be going for the charms, no matter what. But it's got a lot of flexibility to do things. Return creature to your hand, done, nice. That way you can bounce it in for its on creation effects. Destroy target creature. Yes, sure, you lose life, but you're gaining it because you're Orzhov. And there are so many options with this. It's a really nice card all in all. It's certainly worth picking up quite a few of these. The Orzhov Guildmage. Now you're going to be gaining tons of life from your Extort. So its secondary ability is just disgusting. You combine this with the Bracers, it's going to be really nice. It's a really nice Guildmage all in all. It's certainly worth grabbing multiple of them. Really good to play. And these can actually go, you can see these ending up in other decks outside of the Ravnica block, definitely. It's going to be spread out quite a bit. Balustrade Spy. Realistically, you're only going to be milling an average of 2 to 4 cards out of this trigger, but it is still an extra mill in your Dimir deck for a cheap flyer. Something you're going to be wanting picking up a few of, especially as they're commons. Get in there, mill, and because it's a flyer, it's more likely to actually hit. Again, another flyer, Basilica cheap Screecher. It's a cheap Extort. It's a flyer, 2 mana for a 1/2. You'll be getting that damage in, but you've also got the Extort there so that you can get that extra ping in all the time. We want to be getting lots of these all the time. Also, of course, we can cipher it with the beer, and it's going to be really nice because it's a flyer. So, quite a flexible little creature there. Contaminated Ground, it's not bad. Getting this early on an important guild gate, you can force them to burn through, force them to take more damage. Really useful. Otherwise, it's not that amazing. Useful if you can get it early on the right kind of land. You can get the damage down, so it's good. It's kind of useful in an Orzhov deck if you're a little swamped low because you're gaining so much life anyway. You don't really care. Corpse Blockade turns blocks into good trades because of Death Touch. It's a nice little defender. 3 mana for a 1/4 defender. Pretty standard. Sacrificing stuff to give it Death Touch means you can chump block silly things for a laugh. Death Approach. Clearly this is a Dimir card. Bonuses on good mills. You keep milling them, you hit this. It's good in both sets, to be honest. As long as they've got some creatures in their graveyard, it's going to slow them down. It's a common. You'll probably pick a few up in the draft either way. But it is primarily a Dimir card easily. Devour Flesh. That's what it says on the tin. 2 mana, sacrifice a creature. Yes, they gain some life, sure. But you hit them early on, or you hit a Boros deck with this, and they're not going to be gaining very much, but they'll be losing creatures they don't really want to be losing. So it's useful. It's cheap, and it's common. You're going to be picking up a few, but be careful when you use them, obviously. Dying Wish. Same story as the white version, Murder Investigation. It lands on the creature, it's got the value there. And it's not a 2-for-1 anymore. You put it on one of your creatures and they just don't want to kill it. They don't want it to die anymore, which gives you that defense if you then got this creature that's getting unstoppable. So it's a really nice card. And for 2 mana, grab as many as you can and just throw them down. It's really going to slow down your opponent. Grisly Spectacle. Brilliant art. I mean, what more can we say on that? Apart from that, though, it's going to make Gruul decks sad. It's brilliant at just grabbing one of their big creatures and just killing it. Also mills at the same time. you know, best of both worlds. But it's brilliant at just slowing down any of their big creatures and just saying, I don't think so. Certainly worth grabbing a few of these. As they're common, you're going to be seeing them knocking around. Use them as often as possible. Gutter Skulk, it's a rare. It's a 2 mana for 2 bear. It's useful to go with the ogre. Cool, but it's a bear. Illness in the ranks. It's not going to have a massive amount of impact in this set. Overall, though, it is. It's going to have a lot more effect on the actual Ravnica block. It is going to affect a lot more other things, but simply here, not so much. So, bit of a weird one. Probably worth picking up 1 or 2 of, but they are primarily sideboarded unless you know that your opponent's got tokens. Killing Glare. There is a lot of pump in this set, so people can just counter this by making it bigger. You know, you go nuke something and they make it bigger. It's not that amazing. It's uncommon, it's going to be useful, and it's probably going to be quite useful early on, especially against Boros, and maybe Dimir to slow them down a bit. But it's not the best card, although it is useful to draw out some of the blood rushes in Gruul, stop them actually using them properly. So, we'll see. Shadow Alley Denizen. This gets your Cypher creatures through. It's really useful for making sure that those Cypher creatures get their damage in and get the Cypher spells off. It's very much a Dimir card, more than a Orzhov card, but it's still going to be nice. For a 1/1 for 1 mana, you're going to end up picking them up anyway, but it is much more a Dimir card than anything else. Slate Steep Ruffian. It's a 2/2 for 3. Again, it's quite Dimir because it's discarding and milling, but it's not really that interesting a card. But it's a low creature, you're going to need them. You'll probably pick up a couple either way. Smog Elemental. Not all that. 6 mana for a 3/3 flyer. Not amazing. Yes, it's got that -1/-1 to all flyers your opponents control, but let's face it, that's not really going to lock down that many flyers. It is a bit higher priced. You are paying through the nose for it, so it's not the best of card. Maybe only pick up 1 or 2. Pass it if there's anything better. Syndicate Enforcer, slightly expensive for your Extort. 3/2 for 4. Bit too much than you'd rather pay. It gets the job done, but it's probably a bit more than you'd actually like to pay. He'll be useful, but barely. Wight of Precinct 6. That is brilliant in a Dimir deck. Quite good in most decks, but amazing in a Dimir deck because you just mill them and suddenly it's massive. It's very, very worth it in a Dimir mill deck. Get as many of them as possible. In an Orzhov deck, maybe get 1 or 2. Not terrible. Dutiful Thrall. 1 drop with a 1 cost regenerate. He'll block, he'll keep going back. It's useful in a lot of situations. Useful in a Boros deck if you want to splash a little bit of black. Useful in an Orzhov deck. And heck, even a Dimir deck can splash white for it. It's a useful all-round card. Knight of Obligation. Same story as a Syndicate Enforcer. 4 mana for an Extort creature is a bit much. This guy holds the line a lot better though because he's a 2/4 with Vigilance, which means you can be swinging for it every turn and still have a nice blocker. He's going to be useful later on in the game for the blocking. Not brilliant, but not terrible. Maybe grab 1 or 2. Cartel Aristocrat. Definitely going to be sitting there chump blocking. 2/2 for 2, and then you can just choose whatever protection you want. So certainly not a bad thing. Nice enough little creature, but nothing special. Useful to get some cipher damage in maybe, but that's only if you're kind of splashing really. On a side note, the cipher, the Simic guild icon is actually missing in the background for some reason. So a bit of an oversight there. Executioner's Swing. This is brilliant. You're going to want these. You're going to want to pick up 4 of these in your draft. It's brilliant. You chump block and then you destroy. It's a great way of just dealing with things and making sure that stuff stays dead. So it is going to be a very nice card, and you are going to want 4 of them. Kingpin's Pet. Same as a Basilica Tree Screecher. It's a cheap extort creature. It's a 2/2 for 3 mana with flying. It's got a mix of everything you need, and with extort you can't go wrong with them. For a common, you're going to be picking up 3, maybe 4. 1000 Lashes. It's an arrest with a constant ping. Really good card in limited. Very good draft pick. Just lock down one of their creatures, keep dealing them damage. It's certainly something you want to be doing. Keeps your opponent under control, keeps them taking damage every turn. Purge of Profane. It's Mind Rot with life gain. You can't really argue with that. Discard 2 cards, gain life, 4 mana. You can't go wrong with this. It's certainly worth it, and certainly worth picking up 4 as an Orzhov player. Then Beckon Apparition. Graveyard Hate is not something you really need to worry about in this set. So there's not a lot of graveyard stuff going on. Not a lot of stuff coming back from graveyard either. So it's not amazing. It's a 1/1 flyer for 1 mana though. So that's pretty good all in all, and fits in most locations. So you can't really go too wrong. Gift of Orzhov. Same as the other enchant creature cards, it's a 2 for 1, so you need to be careful how you use it. The fact that it gives it lifelink is very useful. The fact that it's got the combo mana means this can be snuck into other decks, and would probably be snuck into a Boros deck maybe. Maybe even be snuck into a Dimir deck so that you've got the flying to get your ciphers in. It's a bit of an interesting card, but again it's a 2 for 1. So it's a delicate one to play. Immortal Servitude. Mass Resurrection combo. It's going to be a really interesting one to see how this actually plays out. It's a little expensive, but it very much depends on how it's actually played out. I'm going to be quite interested to see if anyone can come up with some good combos that really play this to its best ability. As I say, we've not had many sacrifice cards in the set, so there's not really too many interesting things that I've seen so far, but somebody will come up with something really interesting to do with this. It really needs a bit of investigation, this one. Probably not something you're going to want to draft, but definitely one you're going to want to keep an eye on. Thanks very much for that.